Welcome to For Belysning.
You are not broken. You are
out of balance.
and there is a path home.
This is for belly snake,
From the Alaska ulfhednar
ancestral morning light for those
who have been through hell.
and are still standing.
This nonprofit has a sliding scale guidance
At alaskaulfhednar.org/guidance.
for felonious belly snake.
Begins now.
Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder disappears, shattering a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Be sure to check out the website for rewriting your emotional recipes. Remember, you are not broken, you're inherited. So visit the website, purchase and download Rewriting Your Emotional Recipes, Ancestry, Belonging, and the Emotional Patterns that Shape Your Life. God Morgan, and happy Freya's Day to you today. We, of course, embrace the power and the energy, and certainly that recognition of energy and energy management that Freya would teach the realms. She would teach not only those gods such as Odin in Asgard, as well she would bring her magic to Midgard. So lots of energy understanding. Now Freya, for those of you maybe not familiar, Freya was also the goddess of love and war. She understood energy. Now you may say, well, love and war? Well, simply means that that's just a matter of managing energy. It's just a matter of directing that energy one way or another. So it's fairly simple as far as management. So today we're going to talk about the darkness in the dawn. We're going to talk about that energy management as it builds to a place where we can really manifest things here on the physical realm and or our interpretation therein. Before I get started today, as always, I want to say a huge shout out to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed us on any of the platforms that we broadcast on, whether that be live radio, whether it be here on video, whether it be on the podcasts, wherever, and deeply appreciate all of you joining us. We also want to give a shout out to all of you who have checked out New Reality TV, newrealitytv.com, a streaming channel dedicated to those spiritual perspectives that allow us to see whatever our next journey, next part of our path holds. So do check them out as well. So today we're talking about the dawn, or the darkest hour before the dawn. We talk about energy and we talk about moving things and really embracing how we process our everyday energy for manifestation, for healing, for whatever we're going to use it for. So let's talk a minute about energy. What is energy? Well, energy, as you may or may not be aware, energy includes quite a spectrum of things. In many times it could be light. It could come in the form of light and warmth. It can also come in the form of sound. It can come in the form of just a hum, Okay, a lot of times as we're going through our everyday life, and things are kind of resonating in our brain, we may feel this hum of uncertainty, this hum of maybe confusion, maybe even a hum of disagreement, and but it's not really something that's glaring. It's not something that I really want to point fingers or do any of that kind of nonsense. It's more of just a I don't feel 100% right. There's just something off, and it's little. It's not. It's not. I dislike this whole conversation. I dislike this whole thing. I whatever. It's not like that at all. It's it's more or less. It's just in the background. It's just a hum, and it's that hum that begins our build. Now, we've spoken before about how our brain, well, how our sensory input, rather, converts out here to in here. How it takes the images that we receive in our eyes and the sounds within our ears, smells, taste, touch, and converts them into bioenergy. Now, what is bioenergy? Well, bioenergy honestly is a microscopic electrical charge that is actually transferring through your body all the time. And it's traveling across these things called nerve cells. Nerve cells are strung out in strings, right? So they're long, narrow, and please understand that these are microscopic. They're very, very small. Okay, maybe not microscopic, but very, very small. And what happens is something, as an example, touches our finger, as an example, and there are nerves going all the way up to our brain. Well, actually, the nerves typically go into the spinal cord, then up into the spinal cord, into the brain, depending on obviously where you're touched and whatever. Sensory input has a direct feed connected to the brain, so the imagery that we're bringing in through our eyes converted over to this bioenergy, which is then transmitted through the optic nerve, as an example for our vision, right? So over the optic nerve into the brain. So the process that my ancestors explained to me and demonstrated for me was really for my visual understanding, to help me understand how I thought and why I thought the way I did. They spoke of energy that's entered into my brain through a couple of different paths. And this is what, to me, is really exciting. Well, firstly and foremost, we know we get input during sensory input. Our sensory input then converts this image or sound or whatever into an electric signal that it puts on the optic nerve that then is transmitted into the brain. Same thing with the touch. Now, as I mentioned, along the line, and this is all nerves, are these, as I mentioned, these nerve cells, kind of long and thin, and they don't connect per se. They don't actually, there's no soldering, if you will, between the two nerve cells. There's a gap. Okay? And that gap is called the synaptic cleft in the brain. Now, in this synaptic cleft, we have a space, and it is seriously microscopic. But this, in this synaptic cleft, is where your biological factors come into play when transmitting signals. Okay? We know that when we've had too much mead and we're trying to look at something, our vision may not be the clearest. Okay? And again, every person's different for different reasons, but nonetheless, we know that if we've had too much meat or too much mind-altering substances, which may include lice sometimes, by the way, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but how that vision, that sensory input, that signal received from the nerves is different. It's altered. It may not be as focused. It may be fuzzy on the edges. There's a ton of things that could be different about this signal now. Why? Because that conversion, that converted energy, that experience that we've now converted into bioelectricity has been manipulated. It has been altered to a point, in some cases, of not being recognizable from where it started. So sensory input converts it to energy and starts passing it over the optic nerve as an example. And that signal now is altered. Well, there's a couple of things that we have to remember about that alteration. Firstly and foremost, as the energy is converted, as the experience is converted into energy, it has a couple of factors that are going to apply right away. Firstly, our physical form, our body, our eyeballs, right? Our vision may be altered, okay? We may have old tired eyes like the old shaman here. We may have different vision. We may have different levels of the alteration of that signal. So image converted first through the lens of the eyeball, right? So the eye may miss things, it may not see things, and you have to remember you're taking all of this, okay, putting it into the eyeball. The eye may not have very good peripheral vision, in which case you're going to lose this over here and this over here, right? So, because our peripheral vision is damaged. So there's a lot of potential alterations just bringing the experience into the brain in the first place. Once it gets into the eyeball and it's being converted to bioenergy, we have another energy stream that's going to apply to it right away, literally within the eyeball. And this is our imagination. Now, imagination, a lot of people say, oh, no, I'm too old for imagination. Hogwash. Let me tell you what imagination does. Imagination sets up your sight, as an example. Hearing does the same thing, taste does the same thing, everything does the same thing. But it sets up that sensory input for a determination: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Okay? It's going to set that decision up. And it's going to do that by highlighting things that it thinks is or that it wants to say your experiences we've is a flat, just one picture after another. You're experiencing life. These experiences coming into the brain, they're being converted and they're being passed through our system. Now, imagination is not where a lot of times I hear definitions that imagination is this thing where we're imagining life in sunshine and lollipops and all the other things that go with the theory or the stereotype of imagination. But that's not what imagination is. Imagination is the future vision of wisdom. So our wisdom within our minds, created by creating relationships between intellect, now tries to look forward based on what it knows, what wisdom has told it. Okay? So that's imagination. Imagination is looking to the future with the wisdom that we already have. All right? So super important that we kind of delineate that. So energy, the image of our surroundings, of what's going on with us, what's going on in front of us, that image has been converted first by our old, tired, maybe eyesight, and then it's going to convert, and then it's going to join with the energy of imagination. Okay, so those two energies are going to bond together and create what I would call an emotional energy packet. Okay, we're not even, well, I apologize, we're not even using emotion yet. So then that image, now altered as it is, okay, it's got the imagination in it, it's got the alteration from the lens of your eye. It's now passed into the optic nerve where it begins its journey. One of the first things it's going to run into is this very important, very controllable, very manageable piece of our thought process, and that's called, I call it, the mood ring. My ancestors referred to it as our emotional state, our current emotional state. So, if we're grumpy, we're going to see these experiences from one perspective. If we're happy, if we're sad, if we're, whatever, we're going to change that perspective just a little to reflect our emotional state within our minds. Okay? So again, wake up on the wrong side of the bed, we get one look at the world. We wake up on the right side of the bed, we wake up with someone with whom we love, and we got the warm and fuzzies in our tummy. Boom, we see the world a certain way. Okay? So, lens alteration, imagination. Well, lens alteration, conversion, imagination, mood ring. In that order. Boom, boom, boom. So from the mood ring, now this is where my ancestors kind of deviate from something I can prove in biology or anatomy, is according to my ancestors, from the mood ring, these experiences, collections of energies, are then put through what we call the well, or what they called, I should say, the well of the self. Now, the well of the self is a fantastic piece of being human. While spiritual entities possess this, they lack the bottom of it. All right? So if you think about a well, like a water well, you've seen in movies and certainly videos and whatnot, the well is essentially a deep hole, and at the bottom of the hole, well, hopefully about halfway down the hole, is water. And then you would drop your bucket in, you would pull the water out. Okay? You'd have bath water or whatever, drinking water, cooking water. But as my ancestors described it, the well is so much more. Every piece of the well plays a role. In this well of the self are, as we look down through the water, is a beautiful mosaic of rocks, of stones, that are cast into the well and now are aligning the bottom. They're along the bottom of the well. And so there they are, and these rocks represent our virtues, our values, and our belief systems. Some are big, if it's a value that we hold very dear and just won't let people violate that. If it's a belief system that we have that has been proven time and time and time again, we're going to hold on to that. And so those are big, solid rocks, right? They're not messing around. Those are boulder rocks, right? So those are big rocks. And sometimes those bigger rocks, those belief systems, those virtues, those values, they can overshadow some of the values and beliefs and virtues beneath them. So they kind of overshadow. The biggest rocks may be at the very top, in which case nothing else is going to get touched, right? So as the stream comes down, it's going to hit that big rock and kind of shatter over the rock and kind of go around the rock, right? Like water pouring on a rock, if you need a visual there. But when it strikes that rock, when our energy packet strikes that rock, it's going to either expand or contract. It's going to be added, given additional energy, or it might be grounded out a little bit. Okay, so either and or both. Okay, because sometimes they can do both. And then depending on how it transmits through all the rocks, all our virtues, values, and belief systems, boing, 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 gets down to the bottom, it's then goes through another conversion process. We'll talk about that in just a second. But as it's going down through the well, it steers clear of the walls of the well. Now, as long as we're living authentically, we say what we mean what we say. We're living authentically based on our values, our virtues, and belief systems. We're going to stay, our signal will stay off the wall. It won't even scrape the wall. If it doesn't, if we are living inauthentically, we're having to put a mask on to be part of some social organization. We're having to mask who we really are in the hopes of being accepted by some social group, right? So we're putting on some mask, some pretend. We're going to then scrape the outside of the wall. Okay? And when we scrape the outside of the wall, that's where we're going to run into some issues, right? When the signal bounces and hits the wall, it's going to pick up what we call silt. Now, silt is very dangerous later in the belief system, later in the thought process, but suffice to say here and today, hitting that wall essentially is going to minimize our ability to convert the biochemistry created at the bottom of the well back into energy to store in the memory. In other words, we're going to wind up with stress, anxiety, panic attacks. We could end up in having physiological symptoms, rapid heart rate, shallow breathing, sweaty, blah, 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 whatever. All right. So a lot going on there just in those 4 steps. So something to think about as we think about today, Freya's Day. And before we get much further, I need to take a moment and call upon the runes. I call upon the gods to guide us, to give us wisdom, and to provide those buoys, if you will, in our lives. All right, so let's see, what do we have today? Now, for those of you who haven't pulled runes, what we're going to do with our rune is we're going to think about our question, and we're going to feel with our fingertips until something just feels right. And that's the tile that we'll pull. Now, for your purposes, and I'm going to close my eyes just so that I don't see it before you do. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the tile, all right, and you see it's blank. It doesn't have any markings on it. So what this indicates is that I'm giving the gods the opportunity to change the rune. This rune isn't carved yet. It could be anything, right? So as we look at the tile, it could, who knows what's on the other side. And it's not until we turn it over and we can see the rune is the truth revealed. And so today's revelation, algaes. Now, algaes, of course, is a wonderful rune because it's indicative of a higher form of life. awakenings, maybe even a connection to the gods. Now, today, as we celebrate Freya's Day, we're really connecting with Freya in understanding the management of energy from here to here. What makes us think and feel the way we do? It's all about energy. It's all about understanding the universal energy, and certainly the energy of magic. So all of those things really combined to kind of help guide and direct. All right, we got to take a real quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll finish this out with applying today's knowledge, today's wisdom, into our everyday life. How do we look at things? How can we change our perspective to actually see things the way we want, thereby creating the cycle that we want? So we'll take a look at that when we come back. I need to click the right buttons. We'll go ahead and take a real quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Precision when it matters. Raven Crossbows delivers accuracy and speed for serious shooters. See the lineup, sign the link in our description.
It's happening.
It's in the air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
Map the bright threads. Finding the Good is a community project collecting everyday wins, kindness, repair, courage. Join in that.
These words are stirring something heavy in you. You don't have to carry it alone. Sliding Scale Spiritual Guidance with sessions outside normal business hours is available through the Alaska ulfhednar. Visit akulfhednar.org/guidance to book a free discovery session.
Just a reminder, for those of you who may be struggling to understand this whole thought process, I invite you to stop by our website, purchase and download a PDF, an ebook that you can put on your phone, read anywhere, read anytime. For a small cost of only $16.99, you can download the whole instruction set of what the gods and certainly my ancestors would give me as to understanding our everyday thought process. So do check it out. You can download it, purchase and download it at https://author.akoutlaw.com. Remember, it's rewriting your emotional recipes. All right, hey, welcome back, and thank you for taking that quick break again. As today's show is brought to you by the Trinity Road websites. Check them out. You can see them, plus many other of our affiliates, those who support the show. You can check them all out on akumedia.akoutlaw.com/sponsors. So do check them all out. A wonderful opportunity to purchase that perfect gift for the individual with whom you probably still got time, probably still can make it. So do check them out. Again, today's rune, Algiz. Algiz speaks to us about the connection with our gods and that energy from above. Today we're talking about the flow. The darkness before the dawn is as we begin to really realize what influences that we're actually taking in to our brain every day. So it is, to me, it was absolutely mind-numbing to finally recognize all the energies, all the influences trying to change me, trying to alter the way I thought and the way I behaved, right? Because thought becomes behavior. Tolerance becomes behavior. So we really have to be mindful of those energies that are coming into our lives and being converted through this thought process. Now, in the break, we talked about the book, Rewriting Your Emotional Recipes, a wonderful book I've written. I'm very proud of it. And in the book, we talk about the 8 steps, 8 steps of thought. Okay, so it's a beautiful visualization for those who need. I'm one of those people. I'm visual. I'm a very visual person. I need to see things to be able to understand them, to dissect them. Well, this 8-step book does exactly that. It breaks thought and experiences down into their very unique, distinct steps and how we have control of those different steps. We're not at the mercy of the fates, right? We can make decisions along the way. We spoke just moments ago before the break about the mood ring and how the mood ring can kind of set the tone. So it's up to us to recognize these influences, recognize how they are altering our system. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you have to do is take a baseline, right? When there is no energy coming in, right? When you're sitting there quietly, you're maybe in meditation, you're blocking out all this other stuff, okay? There's your baseline, right? And then as we go out in the world and we're interfacing with individuals, we're interfacing with experiences that we're having, what's trying to change our mind? What is trying to make us feel a certain way? That's usually the first red flag, is when it's trying to, when we feel ourselves drawn to a particular emotional state. If we're feeling ourselves pulled to anger, to even to happiness for that matter, anything that's trying to sway us, change our opinion, change our mind, change our mood, whatever's trying to do that, that's influential energy. And influential energy has its advantages. And we know if we're kind of depressed and we start seeing something happy and something, gleeful, we're likely to kind of raise our emotional state up. Remember, all states of particulate matter have, within polarity, have 3 states, right? So we have negative, that's dark, you're typically angry, very negative energy. We have neutral energy, where you're not negative but you're not positive, and we have positive, right? So for us to go from a negative to a positive, we have to go from a negative to a neutral to a positive. If we're neutral, then we won either way. So we'd go neutral, positive, or neutral, negative. Okay? Neutral is, I want to say, a more dangerous place, because it only takes one thing to kind of push us into the negative realm. Whereas if we're positive, it takes at least 2, right? So we got to get hit with neutral and then to negative. All right? So recognizing these influences, recognizing this energy coming into our system, recognizing what's trying to sway us, what's trying to change our direction, our values, or our beliefs, that's a big one. What's trying to change that? But what's trying to change that mood ring? All right? What's trying to change our emotional state that's now forward-looking and altering our imagination? All of these things are things that we just need to pay attention to in our everyday life. And we can make notes of it. Write it down. I find that's the most beneficial, is when we're writing it down. So then we can go back and review it. All right? So I hope that this morning's illumination has kind of helped you recognize that there are energies out there that will affect you, and you ultimately have the decision as to whether you're going to accept that energy or not. You can deny it. You don't have to be forced to feel a certain way, forced to think a certain way. You don't have to do any of that. You're in charge up here, no one else. No, even if you give away the authority to other peoples to provide you with virtues, values, and belief systems, ultimate control of your mind is on you. You are in charge. You get to decide how you feel, what you think. Okay? So you have that authority. So exercise your authority and deny some of these energies. And remember, you don't, just because you deny them 1 second doesn't mean you have to deny them forever, right? You may receive them in a future time, and that's fine. Evaluate them on a case by case basis. Each time we see this energy coming in, is this something that aligns with our authentic self? If it is, great, let's adopt it. If it's not, kick that thing to the curb. Call it good. Also remember, in the bottom of the well, those rocks that we talked about with your virtues, values, and belief systems, you get to manage those. You get to decide. You know, when we talk about things like, you know, one of the things that comes up in a lot in conversation is generational hate. Is, well, my father didn't like this, or my mother didn't like this, whatever. Okay, but how do you think about it? What do you feel? Their energy, their rocks in their well is their problem. You have your own. You can manage your own well. You can throw rocks out, you can put rocks in. You can make rocks bigger, make rocks smaller. You have that control. Exercise it. My friends, I wish you the very best Freya's Day. We look forward to seeing you again on Mani's Day, where we'll celebrate kind of that rejuvenation, that recharge of the batteries, and that readiness to go for another week. I'm always excited for Mani's Day. New experiences, new excitement, new growth, new evolution. It's all part and parcel of this experience I have called the physical life. So I'm always excited about it. I wish you the very best of Freya's Day. I hope that you embrace upon the idea that you are in control of your mind and your heart. You can manage it any way you see fit. So choose love, choose harmony, choose peace, choose comfort. Choose the things that make you ultimately happy. For it is then that you can manifest anything. Once we begin to understand our responsibility in managing our perspective. All right, my friends, I wish you the very best, and we will see you again on Mani's Day. Love and light, my friends.
Fulfilling us. Una. Hjälp oss med. Magnify. Tu för og. Kaliot.
If what we've touched today hits something raw for you, you don't have to carry it alone. We offer a sliding scale spiritual guidance with sessions outside normal business hours. Visit akulfhednar.org/guidance to book a free discovery session.